the big news involving clubs last week was your former club, Warrington, Steve Price, leaving at the end of the season. What did you make of that news, and who do you think will be replacing him there at the Halliwell Jones?
Yeah, if I'm being 100% honest, it wasn't a big surprise. I think he'd signed only an additional 1-year contract, or it wasn't a multi-year contract as normal contracts are. Obviously he's got a young family that are based over here, and if I'm being 100% honest, it's probably the right move for both clubs. I class Steve as a friend. I think he's a very good coach. But whatever, they've got the unwanted moniker around the neck of not winning the grand final. With the amount of money they spend on the squad, it was always going to be under pressure. I think coupled with the brand of rugby that they played last year, wasn't Warrington-esque. So I think I certainly think, from what I understand, it was a mutual decision made in the right spirit to give sort of both parties the ample opportunity to look for options elsewhere. But yeah, I think it'll be a big year for Steve, and the works on how well is thought of by the Warrington players and the club. To answer your second question, there's only one man in my mind who Warrington should go all out for, is Sean Wayne. I think, and Warrington's my club. I've got a lot of feelings for Warrington, but if you're being honest and you look at outside in, you wouldn't associate Warrington as a team. They're a team full of superstars, but then and they've won the odd Challenge Cup. But for the size and amount of that squad assembled, I think it's underachieved, fair to say, and that's being brutally honest. To back up the Sean Wayne argument, I think he craves everything that Warrington need. He is tough, he's relentless, but above all that, he gives the kids a chance, he gives the kids a pathway. And I think if there's a criticism of Warrington, of the youth system, there's not enough of the academy players given a chance, or they have a very limited shelf life. Whereas if you look at the legacy Sean Wayne not only brought when he was in charge, but the legacy that he's living on now under Adrian Lamb's tutorage, I think there are the reasons, plain and simply, why Sean Wayne's the number one choice. I think it demands standards, but I think he works from top to bottom with the kids, and is willing to give the young kids, if they deserve a chance, rather than sometimes going down the route of shiny new expensive signings just to appease fans.
I think the important thing tonight is that you've greatly increased the handsome quotient on the podcast tonight. It's good to see you. Putting us to shame again. Just on the Warrington issue, and we can talk wider about change, because I know that that's something that's very important to you, and something you've always embraced as well, not only personally but in your professional life. It's an interesting time for Warrington. They've got this monkey on their back that they can't shake, that probably more pressure than any other team, because it's always brought up that it's 1955 since they last won the title. But they're in a transition. If you look at the squad now, there are some tough decisions that are going to need to be made about players that are at the end of their contracts or are at the older end. Whoever comes in is going to have a really big job to manage that in ordinary circumstances without the weight of what they need to achieve on the back of it. So I'm going to throw two other names at you just to see if you think they would fit.
I know one of them.
One of them is an obvious name, and he'll be in the frame, and that is Lee Briers, who clearly has done his apprenticeship there, knows the club inside out, knows the youth system there, and obviously will be itching for the chance to play a certain way and do things his own way. And you know him really, really well. Is his time now? That would be the first one. The other one is his father played for the club, and his reputation is such that if money is no object, which it never has been for Simon Moran, he could be the ideal bloke because he's got all the characteristics you've just mentioned with Sean Wayne. But he's actually also got a link to the Warrington club, and that would be Sean Edwards. If he could be tempted back from what he's doing with French Rugby Union at the moment, the record he's had everywhere he's been as a coach, might he be a candidate?
Yeah, I think touching on Lee Briers, firstly, Phil, I think he is very well thought of at the club. Both the thing with Lee is he was a mercurial player. It was a rat bag off the field. But the thing with Lee is, and the thing that's impressed me more with Lee and seeing his development over the last 4 or 5 years, is his transition to being a coach. So he's not one of the boys anymore. He's invested heavily in his own development, and he's got unbelievable views on the game. I think he'd be a great choice. He was heavily involved in the youth side, and he's quite clearly got a strong affinity with the club and the fans. Counter that argument would be they need success. They need their next appointment. They need pretty much to guarantee success. Take my friendship away from Lee. I don't think he gives them that guaranteed bang for the buck of we need to win a grand final. I just don't think he's quite ready. I think he's a fantastic assistant. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. I think he's ready to be a head coach. I don't think it's fair to put the pressure on him from Simon, from Carl, from the board, because whoever's the next appointment at Warrington has got one clear mandate, is to win that grand final. And I think it's probably a bit of too much of a burden to put on Lee's shoulders at this minute. Sean Edwards is... Lee Briers wasn't the one I was going to pick, and Sean Edwards wasn't the one I'm going to pick. And I thought you were going to throw Brian McDermott in there.
Well, if you want a winner, nobody finer.
No, he'd be. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a technical issue. Brian McDermott would be a great choice as a winner. He's free, barring any sackings and poaching this year, but is a proven winner, as we know. Sean Edwards, I'm not as convinced, Phil. 2 reasons. I think his rugby league career doesn't need any justification, but I just think he's been out of the game too long. I've been retired 5 years now, and I go watch some games at Edeling. I'm thinking I'm way off. I spoke to Rich Hagar yesterday on the phone regarding I had a catch up on some of the things they're doing in pre-season, and considering I only retired 4 or 5 years ago, you're a long time sort of out of the systems. And while he's done an unbelievable job wherever he's been, whether it be Wasps, Wales, the British and Irish Lions, and now at France, twofold. I think one is probably being out of the game too long, and quite simply, Simon's got deep pockets, but I don't think they're that deep to tempt him away from the south of France as defence coach. Phil, what's your thoughts on Brian McDermott as a choice?
I pick him anytime you want a team to win. I think he's got something about him, you call it an aura if you like, that gets the best out of players. He's got the ability to change a game plan to suit opponents. He's got a really strict disciplinary process through training. And I think I'm not privileged enough to have been on the inside at Warrington to know what that tiny missing ingredient is. They're not far away from sweeping everything every year, but something is missing at the end of it when it matters the most. And that's what he can bring, that ruthlessness. He's not tied to selection favoritism. He genuinely has picked on form every time he's needed to. And even players who fall out with him will do the best for him. So actually all the ingredients Warrington need are there. But he is a controversial figure. If he doesn't think the club's been door of Simon Moran saying you're wasting your money, or I don't want that guy, or get rid of that. And maybe that's what they need. That was the thing about transition, that it's a very difficult thing to manage, and he's done it.
But don't forget Tony Smith did that when he walked in the door at Warrington and had them conversations. I think if it's delivered in the right way with the right intentions, I think it can only be a benefit.